All right, I think I am live here. I thank you, Bill and Chris, for leading those panels for us. I believe we've got lunch at after this at 12:30. So obligatory joke there that I'm the only thing that stands between you and lunch. But more importantly, in the next 21 and a half minutes, you all are going to understand Carequality and TEFCA, and you don't get your lunch unless you pass a quiz. So in light of Chris wanting to smash a fax machine, we're actually going to pass out Scantrons at the door for that quiz. No. In seriousness, though, Carequality has been highly involved in TEFCA process throughout the whole thing. We'll get into some of that here. And so this morning we've seen a lot of great panels, had some great discussions on the work that Carequality has been doing. A lot of that work has been leading and influencing the direction things are going with TEFCA, which we are now going to have a bit of a shift in focus and hear more about some of the direction of things that are coming with TEFCA. So as you'll see on the agenda, most of our afternoon is going to be focused more on the direction things are going with TEFCA, which is largely being driven by the direction of things Carequality has already done and the involvement of Carequality in driving TEFCA. And we'll talk more about TEFCA tomorrow in the Sequoia session for those that are staying for that as well. So first off, the Carequality team serves as part of the recognized coordinating entity. Sequoia project, as most of you likely know, is the recognized coordinating entity. Has an agreement, cooperative agreement with ONC for being the RCE, recognized coordinating entity of TEFCA, the Trusted Exchange Framework and Common Agreement, for anyone who doesn't already know that acronym. Carequality is a subrecipient of that agreement with the Sequoia project. The Carequality team is primarily responsible for operationalizing TEFCA, and as I listed in some of the things with the 2022 accomplishments, we've been heavily involved in publication of all the documents that are available to date, primarily things with the QHIN technical framework for the technical architecture, the facilitated fire implementation guide, and those documents largely came from what Carequality already has in place today. For those who read through all of the documents in both contexts, the QTF is very similar to Carequality's Query-Based Document Exchange Implementation Guide. The Facilitated Fire Implementation Guide literally is Carequality's Fire Implementation Guide, just with some updates made where needed for TEFCA. And so we're taking the lessons learned in Carequality and what you all have successfully shown works and essentially replicating into TEFCA with some hope of the direction that things will be able to go in TEFCA and hopefully solve some of the things that Carequality has yet to solve today. We are pulling together, and we're going to have on the website actually some of these. And I have a table here. Some of this is still being finalized, and I moved things around a little bit from how it was given to me. But just want to highlight some of what's the same, what's different between Carequality and TEFCA as a starting point today, and the direction that we're going to keep continuing moving things with Carequality, and the direction that TEFCA will continue to go. So query standards is what TEFCA will largely be exchanging with day one, leveraging IHE-XCPD and XCA transactions, QHIN to QHIN, which is what those familiar with Carequality Exchange are already using today. You will notice there is a difference there in that Carequality also uses the PLQ, the patient location query, ITI 56 transaction. In some cases, that's for record location services cross-implementer, which is not something that is currently contemplated in TEFCA, since each QHIN is intended to have its own record location service or EMPI or other ability to locate patients within its own QHIN. Use cases. Carequality currently supports, and we have organizations rolling out or using many of these, but electronic case reporting, which I mentioned this morning. We've got a number of implementers that are continuing to roll that out, and a lot of great numbers that we're seeing there already. Query-based document exchange obviously is the primary use case, what most organizations are participating in exchanging for today, and that's also the starting point for TEFCA exchange QHIN to QHIN. Fire, we just had a great panel about the direction Carequality is going. Our fire implementation guide has been published for a while. Version 2 is what was being discussed with some of the updates for UDAP, and that implementation guide is what was used in creating the facilitated fire implementation guide that was recently out for feedback in version 1. And we are leveraging some of that feedback back into Carequality as well. So those who provided feedback on the facilitated fire implementation guide, one of the big questions, or the last outstanding question really that we had on the Carequality side of things and was discussed a little on the panel, was dealing with the certificates. And so we put a specific question into the TEFCA process for the facilitated fire implementation guide for how we would handle certificates, which will apply both to Carequality and TEFCA once we publish and finalize some of what we will be doing there. As I mentioned this morning, we also published this year the subscription notification push implementation guide for subscription notifications in Carequality, and we've got a number of vendors that are actively working and hopefully will be live very soon. We've got a few of the imaging exchange vendors who are actively doing testing between systems right now and getting ready to roll that into production. Some of these are things that we certainly expect will eventually also roll out into TEFCA. It had obviously a starting point of query based on the work that Carequality has already done here, but we expect that we'll continue to see Carequality use cases rolled over into TEFCA over time as we prove those out here and move them into the TEFCA exchange as well. Purposes of use. Now note the no's here on the TEFCA column are no as in, well, I guess none of these are used yet because TEFCA is not live, but not yet fully rolled out, and there are plans for some SOPs for many of these. Carequality currently has exchange for all of the exchange purposes that are allowed. Treatment is obviously the bulk of the exchange that is happening. When we have 370 million documents exchanged, almost all of those were for the purpose of treatment. But there are exchanges happening today for coverage, for payment, for healthcare operations, public health, patient access, and other authorization-based disclosures. Many of those, as was discussed on the previous panel with patient access, many of those are much smaller utilizations. So often they require out-of-band processes and coordination, and that's why we're putting in place some of the requirements with care coordination, with patient access, really to be able to drive those with additional requirements. And we expect that as we continue to improve those in Carequality, that is also then driving the improvements that will be coming in TEFCA. As Chris mentioned on the patient access IAS discussion, the IAS SOP, for those that reviewed that came straight from the Carequality patient matching, patient access work group. It was published as where we were at that time with the work group. We've continued to work on some things, and so we expect that the things we've continued to work on with those requirements in Carequality will drive additional updates and changes over time in the TEFCA process for individual access services as well. We did a lot of work with payment operations, as was also talked about here this morning with the care coordination subcase, and in TEFCA, similarly looking at some sub-use cases. There we are intentionally trying to start with some different subcategories and not just entirely replicating the same care coordination one that Carequality is tackling, but the same idea and same basis where we started from with some of the initial policies and the direction there for how to handle treatment payment and healthcare operations. As far as the governance, both are based on trust agreements. Again, those that read all the documents. The common agreement for TEFCA largely came from a starting point of the Carequality Connected Agreement, which is the document that implementers sign and agree to and have required flow downs in the Carequality Connection terms to their customers. TEFCA similarly has required flow downs that go down to their participants and sub-participants to ensure that everything is, that the exchanges are trusted and everyone is agreeing to the same terms throughout the exchange framework. One important difference that we've focused on in TEFCA versus Carequality is on some of the requirements for the network governance body requirements in TEFCA. And this is one area where I think we will see, looking at QHIN's largely equal implementers across the two frameworks, anyone that is and becomes a QHIN in TEFCA could also be an implementer in Carequality, but not everyone who's an implementer in Carequality will be able to be a QHIN in TEFCA. We expect that there will be a smaller number of QHINs than there are Carequality implementers. You can see on some of the numbers on the bottom here, we currently have about 50 implementers that have signed the CCA, but 36 of those are live in production today. We currently have 6 applicant QHINs. Obviously, we don't know what that number ultimately will look like. But most of the organizations, or many organizations that are Carequality implementers, could potentially be QHINs, but not all, because of that network governance body requirement is really going to be one of, I think, the biggest differences between what an implementer looks like versus what a QHIN looks like. In that a QHIN is really intended to be a network with a body that governs the network. And in Carequality, we have a number of implementers that are vendors that handle things just contractually down to their customers without necessarily a representative network governance body that oversees the functions of the network. Now, that is something that organizations certainly can put in place. And we expect to see a number of Carequality implementers moving forward and making some of those changes to put those things in place in order to become QHINs. At the same time, it may make sense for many Carequality implementers who wish to participate in TEFCA to instead connect through a QHIN rather than trying to become a QHIN themselves. Just because you're an implementer doesn't necessarily mean that you should also be a QHIN. Obviously, exchange volumes are different today because, well, TEFCA is not live, so no exchange is happening yet, but we'll get there. There are currently 350 million plus, 370 million in October exchanges happening on a monthly basis. So we'll see how long it takes for TEFCA to reach that kind of scale. And that's a large part of the reason why we expect we'll see organizations likely for the foreseeable future participating in both, those that choose to start participating and moving forward with some of the use cases in TEFCA and helping drive things there. And then federal participation is the one other call out. We certainly hope to see federal participation in TEFCA. Federal government involvement is one of the big bonuses and I guess promises of TEFCA and being able to solve some of the issues that we have yet to solve in the private sector. We do currently have the Social Security Administration exchanging or live and preparing to begin some of their exchange in Carequality, and others are in the process of getting connected as well. Let's see, I'm going to switch the order of my slides here for a second. So we are planning to have some paths of essentially parallel evolution between the two, Carequality and TEFCA. And we think there's some good reasons that organizations will continue to participate and do what they're doing in Carequality. We've had some great discussions from the panels of things that we've been solving, where Carequality is going to continue to drive additional innovation. And there are certainly benefits and reasons for the TEFCA model as well, as we see organizations also getting connected and exchanging, hopefully for some of those other new things in TEFCA, while also continuing to participate in Carequality. One of the I guess, benefits that we hope to see out of TEFCA, again, nobody's live yet, so we'll see what happens when we get there, is the promise of the government involvement in TEFCA, allowing for easier solving of some of the issues that we've had in the private sector around particularly some of the non-treatment exchange purposes. Obviously, individual access services, as was just discussed, some of the things with payment and operations that have also been discussed here. The hope is getting, with ONC stamp of approval on things and pushing for things, other federal agencies, CMS and others being able to participate. There are some other things that the government may be able to help us solve that we have yet to really get rolled out and operationalized in the private sector. We're going to continue moving forward in many of those things in Carequality as well. Again, as we just talked about with patient access and care coordination, and continuing to figure out, once we have care coordination policies in place, what's the next subcategory in payment or operations that makes sense for Carequality to take on and continue to add. As we will see, I think for the foreseeable future, we'll see Carequality as potentially being a proving ground of what are some of the things that work, that we can use the Carequality bit more nimble process of getting things through a work group, published through consensus process for publication, and available for organizations to start using, and then leverage TEFCA process to also roll that out into TEFCA over time as well. And I guess just representing industry and innovation, again, the Carequality process, a lot of great participation already here, great representation, and continuing to leverage what we have, again, to drive the industry forward from the Carequality process and influence the direction that TEFCA continues to move. So Carequality implementers, again, are exchanging really ridiculous amounts of information between implementers today. Literally billions on an annual basis now of information. And for those that choose to move in the direction of becoming a QHIN, or even those that connect through a QHIN, the onboarding and designation process and the application largely came, again, from what Carequality has already operationalized and then modified as needed for the TEFCA process. So we expect that organizations that are participating in Carequality should see a fairly similar onboarding process as organizations choose to also become QHINs. And hopefully we'll see that continued benefit of exchange in for the treatment purposes, which largely we have solved and are doing well in Carequality today, roll out some of the additional purposes, and then see benefit from also participating in TEFCA for some of the other exchanges and benefits that we'll see there. And again, we've got an afternoon full of some great sessions about the benefits and additional use cases that we're hoping to roll out through TEFCA that organizations will definitely want to participate in and help drive there by proving some of that out first in Carequality. And I believe that's actually all of the slides that I had. So let me here wrap things up as we've got just a couple of minutes before I'm officially supposed to be done. Let me wrap things up. We will be having a lunch break now until 1:30. Sponsored by SureScripts. Thank you to the SureScripts team for sponsoring our lunch. At 1:30, we'll be back in here with a keynote from Alex Muggy, the Deputy Chief Health Informatics Officer for CMS. And then we'll be into a lot of TEFCA-related topics, again, with kind of focus on the direction that Carequality has been going and that evolving into TEFCA. So go enjoy some lunch, and we will see you all back here in an hour to kick things back off with more of a TEFCA focus.